All right, welcome. I'm Ryan Holger with Temperature Equipment Corporation. If you are joining us today, you probably joined us for one or two of the prior modules in this series. This is the fifth and final one. So for me, it feels a little bit like Groundhog Day on my end because there's a lot of overlap between these. But for you guys, hopefully you all watched the one on November 18th. That was kind of the fundamental one. Talk about filtration and various technologies and how they work. And then all the ones after that were applying different kinds of technologies to specific types of buildings. This final one, hopefully everyone's able to join us on as well, because this one is solutions for your own house. So some of the things we talked about in the prior four modules are ones that can be scaled down for residential use, and you may want to consider putting them in your own house to keep your own family safe. As with all the other topics, we're going to put a little bit more focus on COVID-19 related stuff. But we are going to stick on the HVAC side, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, and not going to have any lectures on you guys about wearing your masks and all that kind of stuff. It's just going to be what can we do from the HVAC side to make things a little bit better for everybody. If you're watching the recorded version of this, I would suggest that you stop, go back and watch module number 1 first, and then come back and watch us over here on module number 5. If you're with me live today, then you're stuck with me. So here's kind of the stuff we're going to talk about today. It will be a little bit similar to what we talked about on the other days, as I mentioned, but a residential flavor to it. We'll talk about air purification filters, so filters that actually purify the air, and there's a whole bunch of them. We'll talk about photocatalytic oxidation, Oxy-4, bipolar ionization, as well as some of the other solutions that I want you guys to focus on that you may not be familiar with at all, or even realize how they relate. So I won't give you the whole lecture on indoor air quality because I assume you watched module 1. Just recall that the bad things floating around in the air fall into 3 buckets: particulates, microbial, and gases. And if we fine-tune ourselves on the microbial one, it's bacteria, viruses, and mold that we're concerned with there. In general, most people's houses, sadly, a good 8 out of 10 of them have not but 1 but 2 indoor air quality problems. So most people's houses have something going on, and many of you have lots of things going on, and you may or may not even realize what they are or that they can be solved. So to the left side there are the ones that we're pretty good at in our industry at dealing with. Carbon monoxide. If we weren't, all of our customers and clients would be dead. So we're pretty good at dealing with carbon monoxide, so our furnaces and so forth don't give off stuff. And then we put carbon monoxide detectors in houses and that kind of thing. Obviously, we're good at controlling temperature because everybody's got a thermostat on their wall, so we're pretty good at that. We're okay at doing relative humidity, and by that I mean, at least here in the Midwest, we've historically done a good job humidifying homes, adding humidity, but we've done pretty crappy at getting humidity out. So we'll talk about that a little bit today. Carbon dioxide is not really a pollutant, but it is a surrogate for measuring your ventilation rate in a building or a home. So we can kind of look at that to see if you're getting enough fresh air in. VOCs are being given off by all the things in your house and in your building, and there's quite a few of them out there, and we want to dilute those down. And then we're really the absolute worst at particulate matter. And particulate matter is pretty much anything bigger than a gas. So particulate matter would include things like pollen, and it can include things that are living, such as the microbials we were talking about, even though those go in a different bucket, right? They go in their own bucket for particulates. But microbials still have size and mass to them, so they can be treated and captured like particulates as well. So speaking of capturing, our primary mechanism is filtration. I won't give you the whole filtration lecture either because you guys already saw it in module 1 and tell you how filters actually work. But if you can recall, there are numerous different types of filters with various benefits and cons, and the size of the thing I want to catch is going to become key. So this chart we looked at before is in microns, or also known as micrometers, very small unit of measure, smaller than a millimeter. And the really big stuff is things like hair, sand, and pollen. And then the medium-sized stuff is things like bacteria. And then the really small stuff is viruses, and then finally down to gases. So how small are viruses? Well, this red blob right here is one of your red blood cells, just one of them. And it looks pretty big on this chart. This blue blob over here is a standard size bacteria. And then in our case, we're specifically concerned with SARS-CoV-2 right now. That is this guy over here, but it's not really him. It's that little tiny dot. That's a blown up version of him. So that's his dot relative to bacteria, way smaller than bacteria. The good news is that COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, is one of the larger viruses that we've ever seen. It's on the big side. So it's bigger than influenza and several other ones that you're probably familiar with. That makes it a little tiny bit easier to catch. It's still really hard to get, but it makes it a little bit easier. If you recall this chart we looked at with the Merv rating system, and we described the Merv rating system in detail last time, but it goes 1 through 20, with 1 being the crappiest filter, 20 being the best filter. Hepa filters, which most of you are familiar with, are Merv 17, 18, and 19 ranges. If you listen to the folks over at ASHRAE, they are recommending that we have Merv 14 filtration in order to have a decent shot at catching COVID. They've also made recommendations for Merv 13 for those who can't use Merv 14 due to pressure drop. But that pressure drop issue is easily solved, so I'm going to ignore that comment. But Merv 13 or Merv 14 will help out a lot. It won't get all of it. HEPA might get almost all of it, but Merv 13 or 14 will get a lot of it. So most people have filters in their house that look like this. If this is the filter you have next to your furnace, you have the crappiest filter you can get. And that starts at a Merv 4. I don't even know what a Merv 1 would look like. It's probably worse than the collar of my shirt. Like it's got to be like cheesecloth or something. I don't know. So if you have these kind of panel filters with thin fiberglass, it's not going to catch a lot. In fact, in general, if you hold your filter up at the light bulb and you can see a lot of light through it, it's not a really good filter. You need dense material to catch a lot of stuff, as we explained previously. So if your filters look like this, you're probably in trouble as far as catching any germs. They might just catch dust, and that's about it. So sadly, these filters are the most dominant filters people have in their homes. The purpose of a filter at your furnace at home is not to make air healthy for you. That's not why we put filters in there. We, the industry, HVAC folks, put filters in there to keep dirt off of your heat exchanger and off of your evaporative coil. Because if those things get dirty, they don't transfer heat very well, and then you complain to us that you're hot or you're cold. So we put them in there to keep us from having problems, and keep our equipment from having problems. But nowadays, and I don't mean just this year, but I mean the past 10 to 12 years, people have had a pretty good focus on air quality in their homes, and these kind of filters are getting booted out for better quality ones. What do we normally use? These are the ones that we use at our office quite a bit. As you may or may not know, we are a Carrier and Bryant distributor, so we use a lot of products from those two folks. Carrier and Bryant stuff works the same way. They're made in the same factory. So their regular line of filters that we use is Merv 8, and then that's pretty entry level. I mean, it's still way better than this thing, but it's still pretty entry level. And that goes all the way up to a Merv 13, which wasn't requested a lot in the past, but this year is requested constantly. And there's different versions of it. There's ones that collapse down and ones that are solid and so forth. We also use some filters from a company called Secureair. We don't use a lot of these ones. We mainly use them because we use a lot of other Secureair products that I'll mention later on. And because of that, their filter line comes along for the ride. And a lot of times people will put in one of their air purifying things, and they'll want the air filter cabinet to match. So we use those too. And then, of course, like many contractors and distributors, we use the standard staples from Honeywell and Aprilaire as well. And there's a whole entire line of that kind of stuff. You can, at your house, do even better than this. Merv 13 is not the ceiling. We can do better. We can even do HEPA rated filters, which are Merv 17, 18, and 19. But this is very difficult to do in residential applications. Actually, it's very difficult to do in all applications because it requires a ton of air pressure to shove the air through such a dense media. And the kind of equipment you have at your house, like a furnace, it can't handle it. Zero chance of putting a HEPA on a residential furnace. So when someone wants to put a HEPA in their home, we can't put it where their regular filter goes, which on this drawing is right here. We have to put it on the side of and in addition to the regular filter. So this over here is the HEPA filter for this residence. And I'm going to use this drawing over here on the right because it's a little bit easier to see what's going on. My return air is coming back from the home. It flows its way through. It goes through my regular filtration and then into my furnace where it gets heated and sometimes cooled and then brought out to the space, back into the house, and then comes back around again. When you want to do a HEPA, you put it side stream over here. So it sits off to the side. It has a flexible connection, or in this case, there's a hard connection on the one on the left pulling from right here. It pulls air from your return duct, runs it through the HEPA, and then shoves it back into your return duct. But if you look at the difference in size of this duct and that hose, I'll call it, This guy's a lot bigger. So you know right off the bat, all of the air is not going through here. In fact, usually only 10 or 20% is going through there. Same thing over here. This one's been a little bit bigger. They're pulling more of it through the HEPA and then injecting it in. But still, the vast majority of the air is taking this path and going in. So you still need your regular filter. And then you also add this HEPA and side stream. And then you're relying on the fact that after enough passes through your home, every molecule will have a chance to kind of make its way through here and get caught in the HEPA. But if you're only taking 20%, and we already told you the other day that the chance of small stuff like a virus getting entrained into airflow is pretty rough, pretty hard to do. The chance of you catching a lot of viruses in this thing is very low. And the fact that you have to change this filter a lot and this one very infrequently tells me that most of the dirt and particles are going this way. So for that reason, we don't recommend the use of side stream HEPAs. We use them a lot. We lose a lot of in-stream HEPAs for like hospitals and operating suites, but for residential, we don't. We have a couple lines, and we do sell them, and people do buy them, and we sell them because they ask for them, but it's not something we would recommend that you do. If you want to beef up, go above Merv 13 filtration, right? Merv 13 is like the bare minimum for catching some of the COVID out of the air, some of the SARS-CoV-2. If you want to catch more of it, and or kill it, neutralize it, inactivate it, however you want to say it, we're going to make recommendations for one of these air purifying filters. Now, one of these four, the Secureair one, we showed you previously in relation, I think we showed it to you guys in the school breakout, as well as the main topic. And we've been using Secureair since 2013 at hospitals and stuff like that at our office. And then just this year, they came out with a residential version. And oddly, they came out with it in like January. So it wasn't even like COVID related. Either they have like really good intuition and said, hey, we should start making this residential thing in case COVID comes, or it was just dumb luck. But they have a residential one now that fits where a regular filter would fit, and it has a low pressure drop, and hence we can put it on those applications. In addition to Secureair, we use a lot of air purifiers from Carrier and Bryant. Carrier and Bryant are sister companies. That's why their products look the same. These products used to be made by a company called Secureair, and a lot of the dudes that work at Secureair now work at Secureair. So you can kind of see how these technologies are. They're different and they have different patents, but they are similar in many respects because a lot of the same people worked on the stuff. But we've had these for, I don't know, 15 years now. And we've been killing all kinds of germs with these forever, and not everybody knows about it. And then we also use some from Respicaire that also have filtration with air purification built in one cabinet. So I'll do just 2 slides on the Secureair to refresh you in case you missed out. The main premise with Secureair is that we are realizing the fact that small particles don't get entrained in the airflow very well because they don't have a lot of surface area, so it's hard for air to blow them around. So instead of following airflow, and instead of falling to the ground because of gravity, they follow what's called Brownian motion primarily. So really small particles, really small molecules in the air, they bounce off of each other. There are millions of them everywhere, and they're colliding into each other and bouncing off in crazy directions. So a virus or bacteria in the air doesn't just make its way through the airflow and go over to your return duct and go back to your filter. It's bouncing all over the place in crazy patterns. It is kind of moving its way towards your return duct, but in a crazy, somewhat unpredictable path. And it's very difficult to get those things back. So what Secureair does is 2 things. 1, it helps get those things back to the filter. And then 2, once it's at the filter, it inactivates them. So the way that works is that the air coming through the assembly gets conditioned, which basically means it's getting charged, positive and negative kind of thing. And then because of that, the particles are touching each other, positive, negative attract, and they clump together, and they are more likely to get stuck in the filter because a small thing can fit through that hole, but a big thing cannot fit through that hole. That's kind of the idea. Now, once it gets onto the filter, it's also going to have electrical voltage passing through it, where I like to think of it basically as the germs get electrocuted. I know it doesn't really work that way, but that's kind of how it works in my mind. Some of those particles are still really small, even though they grouped together a little bit, or maybe they got charged and didn't have a chance to group, so they actually go all the way through the filter and they don't get caught. But they go back into the space, and now this time when they're in the space, they still have a charge associated with them. So they are still going to attract to other stuff. And maybe it's other stuff that we ran through the filter and charged the other way. Maybe it's stuff that's just already floating around in there that wants to buddy up with the charge. But in any case, it gets into the actual occupied space that you live in, and these things clump together, and now they're bigger, where they can fall down on the ground and be vacuumed up or wiped off your counter, or get entrained into the airflow and make its way back to the filter. And now that it's bigger, we can catch it with the filter. That is the entire premise of Secureair. The Bryant and Carrier air purifiers, the Bryant one is called Evolution. The Carrier one is called Infinity. And like I said, these have been around for, I want to say 15 years. It's been a really long time. Mid-2000s for sure. It works very similarly. Slightly different technology, like I mentioned, different patent. But all the air comes through. It goes through this grid where it gets charged. And then it goes into the filter where it either gets captured on the filter or the filter has these metallic strips lining through it, laced through it. And those metallic strips have two connection terminals on them. So when you put the cover of the filter rack on, the grounding pins touch the filter on those metallic strips, which go up and down through the filter. So when the particles come through that we just charged, so we charge them with this device right here, and when they go through the regular filter that has metal laced through it, they get stuck to that piece because they have an opposite charge, positive and negative kind of thing. It also creates ions, which can be helpful, as we've explained in numerous discussions previously, and we'll talk about again at the end of today. So it gets ionized, polarized, opposites attract, and then essentially for these models, we basically pass 18,000 volts through them and essentially electrocute them to death. So it's not only capturing the stuff, it's killing it. And you probably can't see on these guys, but there's a little small logo on them that says captures and kills. And on the Carrier and Bryant literature, it'll say that as well. And if you ever dealt with Carrier, you know they're a large multi-billion-dollar company, you know, lots of lawyers and stuff like that. So for them to be able to use the word kill, that's kind of a big deal. Most of our vendors won't say that in writing, and our biggest vendor, who has the most lawyers involved, is willing to say it. They will kill just about any single cell organism coming through there. In fact, they haven't found one they don't kill yet. And they've tested it on numerous things. For our purposes, the things we care about that they've tested, influenza, common cold, strep throat, like those kind of things it's been tested on. And then just a few weeks ago, they came out and published that they have 99% effectiveness at the coronavirus. Now, in transparency purposes, I will mention that when you read the data, it's the SARS coronavirus. It's not the SARS-CoV-2. They have not tested that yet. They didn't have the data or have the option to test it yet to get that data. But many manufacturers are now coming out with it with SARS-CoV-2 testing. So we'll be getting it from Carrier at some point here too. But it does capture the coronavirus, which is essentially the same size as the newer version of it, of the COVID-19 version. So that is good news indeed. We also use the Respicaire one, as I mentioned. We use tons of Respicaire products here at our office because they make so many different things. So it makes it easy for us to work with one partner a lot of the time. I just mentioned regular filters that they have. And I've mentioned these ones several times in these webinars. And they also have a Merv 15 version that is basically the same size cabinets as these ones from Secureair, right? These guys are all similar in size and installation, and they all require electrical power. And this guy is going to have an ionization process associated with him as well. So we use a few of these once in a while, but we tend to use the other ones a little bit more. And then for you guys that hadn't seen the other webinars, I'm sure you have at this point, but the other one we talked about previously is this Merv 13 MicroClean, and we like that one a lot because we've mentioned it numerous times to you guys for rooftops and unit vents, and now with furnaces. We like it because it fits in the existing filter rack and comes in all different kinds of sizes. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do this one. This one's better, but you have to kind of reroute your ductwork a little bit to make everything fit. This one just slides into the existing slot that you already have, so it's stupid easy, if you will. Low pressure drop, a pretty good Merv rating, not the best, but really good, Merv 13. So lots of benefits there, and I've beat that horse to death, so I won't mention that anymore. We also talked about UV light, if you paid attention on webinar 1, and I got some comments back that, wow, Ryan, you're kind of sour on UV light. I'm not. I like UV lights a lot, and we use them frequently. We sell thousands of them. But I will reiterate what I said before, although last time I spent 15 minutes doing it. This time I'll spend 15 seconds. UV lights need a lot of shine time on something to kill them. So shining on your coil, it's fantastic. It'll kill stuff on your coil. These two pictures of coils right here, that's the same coil. And this coil was never manually cleaned by hand. Nobody came in and wiped it down and scrubbed it. It had weird whatever growing on it. I don't even know what this is, bacteria or mold or whatever that was growing on it. Put a light bulb on it, let it shine on it for weeks and weeks, and all that stuff gets killed off, dries up, flakes off, and falls down. And it ends up looking like that. It's pretty impressive, but it takes a long time of shine time. So if I have air coming past that bulb, moving at 500 feet per minute, it's just not enough time to kill anything in the air. Now, if this is the bulb and this is the thing going by it and it goes really close, okay, I'm probably going to kill it. But if it's down here a foot away, not likely. Pretty improbable. So I'm not sour on UV. It's just I don't want to use UV lights to kill stuff in the air. And I've tried, even at my own house. I wish I had it here. It's in our other building. I took it out of my house and I kept it. But I bought this Totaline UV light. So it's like in the shape of a U. So instead of one straight bulb, it's in a U. And instead of putting it in the duct, say this is my semi ducts going up like that. Instead of putting the duct like this, you put it like this. So it's not only like one pass, the airflow is going this way, so it passes the whole length of the bulb, which gives me more shine time. And there's two bulbs, so it's harder to be away from the air. And then all those bulbs are in a metal canister with this little turbulator on it that slows the airflow down so it stays in there longer. It all sounded wonderful in 2003 when I bought it. It didn't do anything. It was totally worthless. It made no difference in my life whatsoever. And when the bulb died, I abandoned it and turned it off. And then years later, when I sealed my ductwork, I just took it off and threw it away. I should have put one on my coil instead. It would have been better off. What I had since replaced that with is some of this kind of technology at my house. Now, the one I replaced it was a Phi technology, which is not shown on here, but it's similar, not the same, but similar to PCO. And PCO is just the kind of technology we use nowadays instead of when we used Phi 10 years ago. But I'm going to talk about the PCO and carbon together, and then we'll talk about Oxy 4 as well. So these guys all look kind of similar if you look at them, and most of them are doing similar things because they all have a PCO component to them. PCO is photocatalytic oxidation. Photo means light's involved. Catalytic means that we're going to use something as a catalyst to cause a chemical reaction, and in this case, it's going to create oxidizers. So there's actually 3 steps in how these guys work. Step number 1 is there's a UV bulb there. So this style right here I have has 4 sides around it, and 3 of the sides have a cage on them, which I'll explain. And this one on the bottom is wide open. And if I put this above my coil at my house, here's my 8 coil, put that guy above it, I'm going to have UV light shining in my coil, and I get the whole UV benefit, kill mold, kill bacteria, and keep my coil clean so it saves energy, etc., etc. I won't beat that horse to death at all. Then on the sides of this style, there are black cartridges there, and on the opposite side that you can't see, those are carbon cartridges. Carbon is really good at absorbing odors. That's his main job in life as far as HVAC is concerned. You can even buy carbon filters that slide into your air handling system for your commercial building. One of the local hospitals put a bunch of carbon filters in on their outside air intake because the intake was right next to the helipad. And like twice a day, there's a helicopter like just sitting there spewing diesel fumes into the air. And people were complaining about that. So they put carbon in there to absorb those diesel fumes. It's really good at absorbing stuff, odors like that. But you have to replace it every once in a while. Well, the UV light shining on it actually regenerates it, so you don't even have to replace it, which is beautiful. I mean, eventually you have to replace it, but like years and years down the road, you don't replace it on like a regular schedule. So carbon has those kind of great benefits. It's good at knocking out odors. It absorbs VOCs. So there's a lot of benefits there. And then there's the PCO side, which is the white cartridge on top. That cartridge is carbon-infused titanium dioxide. And when the UV light shines on that, it causes a catalytic reaction that we call photocatalytic oxidation. So that reaction creates oxidizers. In this case, they're hydroxyl radicals. Radicals are unstable things, so they're chemicals that are in the air that are not stable. And if you flash back to high school chemistry yet again, you'll recall that everything in the universe kind of wants to be stable. So if I'm an unstable thing floating in the air, I'm going to jump onto something else and try to make myself stable. I don't want to be unstable too long. It's not good for me, right? So the way that process works, I have a UV bulb shining on titanium dioxide. That creates these oxidizers. In this case, we're showing OH as our oxidizer. There's other ones as well. Those oxidizers go out into space. They're kind of like an airborne natural detergent. And they break up chemicals. They cluster themselves around single cell organisms and rip apart their cell wall and destroy them. It's pretty impressive what they can do. And the byproducts of that are water vapor and carbon dioxide. It's carbon dioxide with a D, not carbon monoxide, which is harmful. So two not harmful things are the typical byproducts of that process. Several of the manufacturers have test data showing how PCO can kill various types of things. Most manufacturers will test one bacteria, one virus, and one mold, and then kind of call it a day, and kind of like let things imply that they could do others, because these tests are like over 100 grand a pop, so they're not just looking to spend money on testing 55 things. But sometimes something new comes out, like SARS-CoV-2, and then they'll pay to get that tested because there's obviously a big interest in it. And when H1N1 came out a few years back, a lot of places got that, testing done as well. If you guys have questions as we go, just type them in the chat box. I'll do my best to answer them. This is a quiet group, but type in whatever you want, man. So this is what I have in my house right now. It's called Oxy 4. I used to have Phi technology, like I said, and I loved it. I put Phi technology in my house, I want to say 9 or 10 years ago. And for 3 years, it was wonderful. Like nobody at my house got sick, nobody at all. And my kids were in young grades then. And nobody got sick. And then all of a sudden on year 3, one of the kids got sick. And my wife gave me a hard time. She's like, I think your little bug zapper in the basement is dead. And I'm like, what are you talking about, bug zapper? It's like your little air purifier thing. I go down there. Sure enough, the bulb was dead. Threw a new bulb in there. And I'm kidding you not. I had another 3 years of nobody getting sick in my house. And at that point, I had 4 kids, 2 of which were in preschool, going and picking up germs and bringing them home. And nobody got sick for 3 straight years. It was wonderful. And then, of course, the bulb died, and I didn't change it right away. My wife gave me a hard time, and somebody got sick. I then switched to this style, this Oxy 4. It is, in my opinion, a little more potent, which is great. I do have to change the bulb more frequently. It's a 1-year bulb instead of a 3-year bulb, but the bulb costs like 1/3 the price. So other than me setting a reminder on my calendar, which I do now, I didn't do that then. Now I'm smart enough to do that now. Plus this one, the residential version of it, has a screen on there, and it'll beep and tell you when you're at your 1 year, so you know you got to change the bulb. So it's pretty good in that regard. It is a PCO device, just like I had described previously, titanium dioxide and all of that. And it creates these same 3 oxidizers that PCO creates. Hydroperoxides, which is kind of like hydrogen peroxide, brown bottle, poured on the cut type of stuff, but in this case in an aerosol form in your duct system. Superoxides and hydroxide ions. Additionally, it creates a 4th oxidizer, which is why we call it Oxy 4. That's how he got his name. And that oxidizer is O3 negative. So I got 4 things working in my favor to kill a lot of germs. Now, some people don't like the smell of this O3 negative, which is basically ozone. It's fairly low dosage. It's below the FDA limit, but sometimes people can smell it. Usually they smell it when somebody installed too big of a purifier for the size of the home and system that they have. In my case, I've put even the commercial ones in my house, and I can't smell it because we have, with 4 kids and a fairly decent sized house, like there's plenty of dirtiness going on for these things to react with. But if you had a small house, barely occupied, and you did a good job cleaning all kinds of stuff, putting in a big commercial one, you definitely would notice it. And it's not even like a bad smell, in my opinion. It's like when you go to the dentist, they open up the tool bag with all the utensils in it that are all sterilized, and you get that like woof of like metallic smell in the air for a little moment. It's that smell. To me, that's the smell of cleanliness, but I guess other people don't like the smell of the dentist because it reminds them of the filling they got. In any case, just this Wednesday, Respicare announced that 4 of their products, including the Oxy 4 product, have been tested and proven to kill not just coronavirus, but specifically SARS-CoV-2 version of the coronavirus, and at a excellent rate, which is in seconds, 99% kill rate in seconds. So the Carrier and Bryant air purifiers, we have those tested for 99% on coronavirus in general, but not SARS-CoV-2. And for you guys that have been paying attention, the GPS solutions that we've been using have data specific to SARS-CoV-2 and a 99.4% kill rate, which is a little bit better, but that one's in 30 minutes. This is 99% in seconds. So a little bit less of a kill rate, but much faster. So that just came out this Wednesday. So if you joined me on the Wednesday webinar, you probably did not see this note because I didn't include it because I didn't have the data officially. But now I've got it on here because it's a new day. Then we have bipolar ionization, which I've mentioned, and this is the only thing I've mentioned, I think, in literally all 5 webinars. So it tells you how versatile this is. So because you probably all watched one of the other webinars, I'll do kind of a fast version of describing this. Plus, I want to spend some time on the other stuff that you haven't seen yet. So bipolarization means that there's two poles, 1, 2. I need to have the airflow going this direction, so it charges some things positive and some things negative. I can't put it like this, because then I'll charge something positive and the same something will be negative, and that's kind of a waste. So it's got to be like this, so half the things get positive, half the things get negative. And that's going to allow me some of that electrostatic attraction type idea. It's going to be creating ions for me, hence the bipolar ionization. So it's creating ions. Ions occur naturally in the environment all the time. There's some examples on when they occur, like waterfalls and other places where there's some things like that going on in the mountains. So what we're trying to do is recreate that in your house. Now, these ions that we create only have about a minute before they kind of disperse off. They attract onto other things and they conglomerate and group on and they get used up essentially. So they only got 60 seconds. Normally that's not a problem. For really big commercial systems with long ducts, it could be an issue. But at a house, everything's pretty small and the air leaving your furnace will definitely be inside your room within 60 seconds and probably even within 30 seconds. Sorry about that. So what it's going to be doing, positive, negative charging. So making these positive and negative ions, they are going to go out and they are going to attach themselves to each other, or more likely even to other things in the air, things that have charges themselves, because positive, negative attract. Once again, that makes them bigger. That makes them more likely to get sucked back to the filter. So it's just like the Secureair thing we were talking about, except there's no filter in this. This uses your regular filter. Now, hopefully not a crappy Merv 5 filter, something pretty decent like a Merv 13. It uses your regular filter plus this bipolar ionizer together as a team to do kind of the similar thing that we're doing with the Secureair. But this is more retrofittable, if you will. You can throw it in like 10 minutes as opposed to having to have your ductwork realigned for one of those air purifiers I was talking about. It's also going to be attacking bacteria and viruses and germs, single cell organisms. These charged ions are going to be circling around them because they're charged, and they're going to be stripping the hydrogen atoms away from them. And those devices, or not devices, but those organisms, they need hydrogen to survive. Just like you got to breathe oxygen in, they need to breathe hydrogen. I mean, they're not really breathing, but they need the hydrogen. So when we're getting that hydrogen used up because of our ions, there's nothing left for the viruses, and hence they die. So it's breaking apart those single cell organisms. It's also really good at removing chemicals. A lot of these things you're not using in your house, so I wouldn't sweat it too much. But any chemical, and this is a partial list, that has an electron volt charge of 12 and lower, we will be able to take care of. If it's above 12, this doesn't do anything for it. So it's going to be able to break down and neutralize any of these chemicals. The example I gave you guys before was ammonia, because that's one you probably have heard of. As ammonia passes through this ionized plasma field that we were talking about, it breaks it apart. So instead of one solid molecule, it's now 4 individual atoms, 3 hydrogens and 1 nitrogen, all with a charge on them now that they didn't have before. They could regroup together somehow, but that's extremely unlikely. They're more likely to conglomerate onto other things that are more stable. So a couple hydrogens may buddy up with an oxygen, that's water vapor. And if 2 of those nitrogens jump on together, that's N2, which is the same kind of nitrogen that we have floating around in the air that makes up most of our atmosphere. So I'm both water vapor and nitrogen, I'm both good having those in my airflow in my house. They will cluster around other particles and make them heavier, which means they will fall to the ground where you can vacuum them up or wipe them up, or they will be sucked into the airflow and make their way back to the filter. And because they're bigger, they will also be more likely to get caught in the filter. And then, as mentioned, they will suffocate viruses and bacteria. These ions that we're creating create hydroxyls. Hydroxyls are radicals, so they don't have a very good stability. So they want to be more stable. So they're stripping stuff away from these viruses like hydrogen in order to make their scenario better, which thereby kills the viruses. I showed you guys this the other day too. This is the regular SARS virus. I've gotten to the point now where I call it regular SARS or I call it COVID SARS. I don't know. So this is older data. This is 10-year-old data, but showing you that the Merv rating in your filter can actually be enhanced in its ability to deal with coronaviruses, specifically SARS in this case, by adding other technologies to your filter. So here's your filter. If you add UVC, you get a bump. Or excuse me, here's your filter. If you add UVC, you get a little bump. If you add ionization to the filter, you get a big bump. So if you had a crappy, well, most of you probably have crappy Merv 6 filters, and that's not really going to help as much. But if you had a decent, respectable Merv 8 filter, you'd be catching 11% of coronavirus, SARS version. But if you put it with an ionizer, you could catch 84%. If you upgraded to a Merv 13, which I've been recommending you guys do all week, instead of catching 46%, you can catch 98.8%, which is a lot. And then if you did a Merv 15, which we mentioned a couple Merv 15 filters today, instead of getting 71%, you could get 99. So you're getting like near HEPA performance, but instead of having that whole side stream HEPA thing where it's got to have its own fan on it and only 20% of the air goes through it and all that business, this is 100% of the air going through it, and I don't even need like a special outlet installed for it. And there's other studies out there too that support that, and I've mentioned these before. So it's not just the ASHRAE study. There's two other ones that we found here as well. So at your house, what would you be putting in? You could put in these little guys, and you probably saw when we were talking about some of the small stuff at schools. We might have recommended these on some of those because of space constraint reasons. You're probably not going to use this one ever, honestly, the white one. I didn't even show it to you before. I probably should have took it off here. It doesn't produce very many ions, only 25 million ions, which million sounds like a lot, but it's crap. So I would never use this or anything that only produces that much. If you're going to buy a bipolar ionizer from any manufacturer, and there's like a dozen of them out there, and we represent two brands, but there's even more than what we have. Look at the ion count and make sure you're getting a pretty large ion count. 25 million is low. So this guy, which is basically the same, the black one, is like literally only a couple dollars more than this guy, and it's putting out 170 million. So because of this black one, the white one's pretty much unavailable now. I mean, you could still get it. We have to special order it, but we stopped stocking it because it doesn't make any sense. So we do it all with this one now. So for your small systems, we'd be using this guy. What we've been doing for a lot of systems is putting in this light commercial one. It is good up to 6 tons. Most of you at your houses have 3, 4, and 5 ton systems. This could do up to 6 tons. This guy could do that as well from an airflow standpoint, but he's only producing 170. This guy's producing 300 million. So the more that I produce, and remember, these things only last for up to 1 minute. So as they go down my duct, they're interacting with things and getting used up. So the more I make, the more will make it into the space. And there is there's no thing that I've ever seen that said you can make too many ions in the space. Like I said, these occur naturally in the environment as well. So creating 300 million instead of 170 million means more of them will make it down the duct, and hence more of them will be used in my space. But the other reason, and the reason I like this one better, not because it has more output necessarily, it is a few bucks more, but this one has to be cleaned. You have to come off and wipe these 2 needles off, or this old style one, wipe these 2 needles off, because these are little carbon fibers. And as they are charging stuff, things are charging and sticking to them. So they get kind of clogged up with dust. So you have to wipe these things off every so often, every couple months. This one you don't have to clean. It's self-cleaning. It's got these little windshield wipers that every day it just kind of flicks over and wipes them off and goes back. And then next day, flicks them over, wipes them off. So they're self-cleaning. So there's nothing to do. There's no maintenance. There's no new bulb to buy. There's nothing to wipe down. There's just nothing. You just install it, and then that's the end of it. So we use this one primarily for everybody's furnaces at their homes, unless they had a really, really small system like in a condo or something. Then we might put in this black one. If somebody has a ductless system, a ductless mini split, that's where you have like a unit up on your high wall, and then there's a condensing unit outside. Or if they have a PTAC, that's kind of like the units that you see in hotels. Not kind of, that is the units you see in hotels. Then we're going to use this ribbon style one. It's really skinny and flat, like really skinny and flat, like 1/4 of an inch or so. And you could lay it right on top of the coil and then put the cover back on, and it fits in there. And then this little power module goes off on the side over there. And then, of course, as you know from the other webinar breakouts, there's all kinds of different versions of this guy out there that we can do for different kinds of applications, fitting in wherever we need to fit them. And as I told you before, this is the first HVAC air purifier to be tested specifically on SARS-CoV-2. Back in June when they published their data, it was a 99.4% reduction in the SARS-CoV-2 virus within 30 minutes. So that's not quite as good as that Oxy 4 one that I showed you a minute ago with the bulb, but this one you don't have to change a bulb. So there's a trade-off, right? And they kill all kinds of other stuff too, and they've had data published for a decade on all the stuff that they kill. I will also mention that this guy does not produce any of that ozone. So I said that's a concern for some customers with that Oxy 4. By the way, you don't have to, you can get a Respicaire Oxy X, we call it. We used to call it Oxy 3 as a joke because it didn't have the fourth oxidizer of ozone. So now we call it Oxy X. But you can use that if you wanted to. It's less potent, but you could do it. But this one here would be a lot of potency with bipolar ionization and GPS. And GPS is the only bipolar ionizer that has been tested by UL to guarantee zero ozone emissions on it. So a lot of people are interested in it because of that. We also have one from Respicaire because, like I told you, Respicaire makes literally everything IAQ related. So we use a lot of Respicaire stuff because it's a one-stop shop kind of thing. So they make our UV bulbs. They make all those kind of filters I told you about. They make electrostatic filters. They make mold eliminators. They make PCO devices, Oxy 4s, all kinds of stuff that we use. And they have all kinds of test data on all the stuff that they kill as well. It's not just SARS-CoV-2 that they kill. They kill pretty much everything. So I'm not going to read you that because that would be boring. They break down chemicals as well, all kinds of stuff. All right, so I got through all that, so I can go to some of these other things I wanted to show you guys. There's several other things I wanted to talk about and how they help your house. And I'm going to skip a couple of them because they're not related to COVID, and this topic is supposed to be COVID focused. But I'll just mention them briefly. You should have carbon monoxide sensors in your house. You should have a carbon monoxide sensor right next to your furnace and water heater. And then in addition to that, you should have one on each floor of your home. In addition to carbon monoxide sensors, you should have smoke detector alarms in your house. You should have one of those on each floor of your home. So for those, you should just buy a combo, carbon monoxide and smoke combo. And then in your bedrooms, you should have additional smoke detectors there. You could put combo ones there if you want to as well. It's a little bit overkill. But anything built modernly in the past 20 years to code, you would have to have a smoke detector in every single room that could be closed off as a bedroom. And then you have to put smoke and carbon monoxide on each floor. Additionally, we use duct smoke detectors. I just installed one of these in my house last year, and I'm surprised it took me this long. I've been using these sensors since 1997, maybe, these duct sensors on commercial buildings. Commercial buildings with 2,000 CFM, that's 5 tons of cooling and larger, are required to put these in their duct systems. And if any smoke is detected in your duct, it shuts off your system so your fan doesn't run, so you don't suck smoke out of the room that has a fire and use your duct system to distribute the smoke all the way around. All right? It finally clicked in my head, like I should just do that at my house. So now I do it at my house. So now if there's any smoke detected in my duct system, it'll kill my furnace fan so I don't spread the smoke around, right? Thereby making more people in my house be in danger. We'll talk about these other 3 here, duct sealing, humidity control, and ventilation air here. We do have an energy code statewide in just about every state. Most of you guys are from Illinois, so we're on the IECC 2018. If you're in neighboring states, you're probably on the 2012 or 2015 version. But for all the things I'm going to talk about right now, it's all the same. So duct sealing is actually required nowadays. It's not optional. Then you have to seal your ducts to make sure that you seal. You have to test your ducts to make sure you seal them well enough. You have to seal your house really tight. And then you have to test your house to make sure you sealed it well enough. And because of all those things, it means you're trapping a lot of stuff in your house. Good job keeping all the cold and hot air from migrating in and out of your house and ducts, but we've also eliminated some ventilation air accidentally because of that. Codes require you to do heating and load calculations. I'll explain that. Codes require you to have mechanical ventilation because of these things I just mentioned up here. So I'll blow through those pretty quick, but ducts have to be insulated if they go in your attic or crawl space. And they have to be sealed everywhere in the entire house. You have to seal the ducts. And then if those ducts happen to go in the attic or crawl space is when you have to actually test them. So you always seal them, but you have to test them if they go in the attic or crawl space because the idea is your attic is unconditioned. It's cold, it's hot, and you're sucking in air that you shouldn't be sucking in. And I'm not going to read you all this code language. If anybody has code questions, let me know. It's the energy code is literally one of my favorite topics because I'm so boring. So call me if you want to talk about that at all. In order to seal ducts retroactively, it's very difficult because once the ducts are installed in an existing home and all the drywall's put up and everything, how are you going to get to it to seal it? So we've been using this process called aerial seal. We've been using it since 2013 residentially, and I think 2016 commercially. And then even before 2013, other people have been using it. So it's been around since the 90s. Essentially what we do is we go to your house, we take off all of your registers on your duct system and plug them up with a temporary foam block. Then we take airflow and we inject it into your duct system. And we have a nozzle on here that squirts aerosol sealant, which is basically aerosol glue, into the airstream, and it gets pushed into this pressurized duct that we just made, and it can't make its way out because we blocked it off, so it goes out all the little cracks and crevices. And as it leaks out the cracks and crevices, it basically, sounds gross, but it like scabs the hole shut with these little glue balls. It's high pressure in the duct, low pressure out of the duct, so as it comes racing out of the crack, it just slows down and kind of clings there. And then the next glue ball attaches to him, the next one on him, the next one on him, and it scabs the hole shut. We get to very, very low leakage rates when we do it this way, and it can be done on new construction or very easily on retrofit. It is fairly expensive. It'll probably cost you like $2,000, so I wouldn't do it for energy saving reasons alone, which is nice. But there is two other reasons you would do it. One is air quality benefit. If your ductwork goes through your nasty crawl space or your humid basement or your unconditioned attic and you're sucking in fiberglass from the insulation and rat turds and whatever else, I'd like to have that all stop. So there is an indoor air quality benefit to that. But then there's also a comfort benefit. If I can't get enough air out of this register in my kid's bedroom above the garage, by blocking up all the cracks and crevices, it means my regular furnace fan now has more air available to go to my kid's bedroom. So I did this in my house 7 years ago, and that was my exact scenario. Two of my kids have a bedroom above the garage, and it was always the hardest to heat and cool. It's actually the biggest of the 3 kids' bedrooms that we have, and the other 2 kids weren't even in it at the time because it was the worst one to heat and cool. And then finally we have 3 and then 4 kids, so somebody's got to go in there. So sealing up the duct was definitely my solution for that. The side benefit, and where this ties into COVID specifically, is that a lot of the humidity problems that people have are because they have leaky return ductwork in their crawl space and in their attic. Your attic is outside. If you don't realize it, you have soffit vents on the side of your house and then ridge vents up at the peak of your attic, and air from outside comes in there with its coldness in the winter and its hot moistness in the summer. And if that stuff's lingering in my attic, the return side, the suction side of my furnace, pulls that air in with the humidity. And it causes me to have higher humidity in the summer, which I do not want. So I've showed you this chart every session as well, so I won't go over that in detail again, but we want to keep stuff with say between 40 and 60% to make less bad things happen. So not sucking in humid air in the summer from my attic is one of the ways to help do that. I think I showed this to you guys as well. I got so many classes that things kind of all bludgeoned together here. But this is for influenza, and this chart is very difficult to read, and I put Fahrenheit on here to make it slightly easier. These are temperatures read across. These are humidities read up and down, and the curves over here are the risk of influenza spread. So red means 0. So if I can heat your space to 86 degrees, the chance of the flu spreading is pretty much not happening at all. If your space is 77 degrees and 20% humidity, there's like a 70% chance of it spreading. But if I keep raising that humidity, and once I get above 40%, it drops down, and now I'm still at 77 degrees, say in the summertime, but I'm down to a 25% rate instead of a 70% rate. You see this dip on all these curves in the middle? So if I get between, say, 40 and 60% relative humidity, less things happen. And the closer I get to 50, the less bad things happen. Even in the wintertime when I only heat my house to 68, if it's low humidity, 20%, I got like an 85% chance of spreading the flu around my house. And if I keep that humidity higher and higher, so I get over here, now I'm going down to these other curves and I got 50%, 40%, 30%, and even 25% spread rate. If I can get 50% relative humidity on a 68-degree day, influenza's only got a 25% risk factor instead of 60, 70, 80. Coronaviruses is a similar story. This is a different study. Black was 20% relative humidity, green is 80, and blue is 50. And in this case, down in the bottom is number of days of this stuff surviving. And then up this curve over here is how many of them we eliminated. So this is 100 of them, 100% of them being viable, 10%, 1%. So this is basically 99% reduction down here. So if I have 20% humidity, the best I can do is a 90% reduction if I wait 2 weeks. I'm not waiting that long. If I have 80% humidity, it's too humid. The best I could do would be, I don't know what that is, 99.8% or something like that over 2 weeks. Or I can get 99% after like 8 days. But if I keep it in the middle at 50%, After just, let's say, 2 days, I've gotten rid of 99% of it. And then after more and more days, it drops even better. I'm not saying humidity control is the only way to do this, but having the humidity be in the right range is a big help in eliminating viruses inside your house. This one's also coronaviruses, but I think I beat that one to death, so I'm going to skip it in the interest of time. If I can get the humidity up in the wintertime and down in the summer and keep it in that middle band, I'm going to be good. Keeping it up is easy. We add a humidifier. There are evaporative humidifiers and there are steam humidifiers that you can add. Most people will have evaporative because it's easier to clean and it's less expensive to install, so that's what most of you will use. And there's two kinds. There's a bypass and a fan-powered. Bypass steals air out of your duct, runs it through the humidifier, and throws it back into your duct. A fan-powered steals air through these louvers in your basement and then shoves it into your house. We use both of them for different applications. Sizing humidifiers has been kind of a joke over the years because every chart you look at will just say, well, do you have a tight, average, or loose house? But no one ever defines what tight, average, and loose mean. So I'm the one that's going to tell you right now that if you have a new construction home, meaning your house was built in the past, say, 8 to 10 years on our current type of codes where house ceiling was required, you are tighter than a tight home on this chart. You are ultra tight. In fact, if you have a new construction home, you don't need a humidifier at all. You should be able to keep it up. My house is 18 years old, and our humidity's never been below 35% relative humidity, ever. I put a humidifier in the first year. I abandoned it a few years later. I've since thrown it away. It's not needed in my house. And most of your newer houses are going to be like that. Now, the house I grew up in, no chance. Like, that thing is bone dry. It's like 7% humidity all winter long. It badly needs a humidifier. Different kind of scenario. So adding humidifiers is a well-known part of our trade. If you need help with that, let me know. Dehumidifying is a much bigger challenge. The gut instinct of an uninformed person, homeowner or contractor, is if you have high humidity to install a dehumidifier. I'm here to tell you, don't ever put a dehumidifier in. Humidifier is fine. No dehumidifiers. Dehumidifiers are for people that live in Florida. We don't need them here. If you're putting one in here, it's because lots of other bad things have been done in your home, and the dehumidifier is your last resort Band-Aid. What do I mean by that? If you put in a properly sized and staged air conditioner, your regular air conditioner is an excellent dehumidifier, but you have to size it correctly. If it's too big, that's a problem. What do I mean by too big? How can it be too big? Tim the Toolman said, more power, right? It can't be too big. If your air conditioner is oversized, and by the way, 99% of all the homes that I've been to and commercial buildings have oversized air conditioners. So all you guys on this call, you have an oversized air conditioner. If your air conditioner is oversized, what ends up happening, your thermostat tells your system to turn cooling on. Your condensing unit outside turns on. It sends a cold refrigerant to that evaporative A coil above your furnace and starts cooling down the air. After a few minutes, it cools the air down enough till it gets to the dew point. And now the air can't hold any more moisture, just like your car windshield can't handle it at night in the summer, and it condenses the moisture onto the coil. And then it drips into the condensate pan, and it drains out that PVC tube you have there. But it takes 4, 5, 6 minutes of the air conditioner running for that to happen. So if your air conditioner is oversized, after 4, 5, 6 minutes, the thermostat's reached the temperature that it wants, and it turns off the cooling, and I never got much of a chance to dehumidify. So I need a smaller air conditioner so it has to run longer in order to dehumidify. Now, those of you that are thinking, no, if it's smaller, it won't get cold fast enough. I don't need to get cold fast. I need to just get cold and then hover at cold and just stay there. My air conditioner in the summertime, and I'm not even exaggerating, it'll run 3 to 4 hours nonstop without even shutting off. And it's fantastic. And it doesn't cost me any more money because it has a lot of stages to it, and it just ramps down on low, and then it's just cruise control from there. In other case, you got to size it correctly. The energy code dictates to you what you have to do. It says you have to use ACCA Manual J to calculate the sizes, and ACCA Manual S to apply the sizes to specific models of equipment. It also gives us several other rules. For starters, you are only allowed to cool a house or a commercial building for that matter down to 75 degrees. You are not legally allowed to design a house to be cooled below 75. I know you're also thinking, I'll never be comfortable at 75. Dude, my house is at 77. And we're not people that like it to be warm or anything. I mean, in the wintertime, 2 of my 4 kids walk around with shirts off all the time, the whole winter, nonstop. And that's at 68 degrees in the wintertime in our house. My wife wears flip-flops in the winter. She only has a coat used to go to kids' sporting events outside. Otherwise, that she doesn't wear a coat. Like, we don't like it hot, but at 77 degrees, we are comfortable. And if I made it colder than 75, we would be freezing. But I actively dry out and dehumidify my house, so it makes a difference. Think of it like this. 100-degree day in Las Vegas, 100-degree day in Miami. Are those the same comfort? No, of course they're not. Vegas is 100 and dry. Miami's 100 and nasty, clammy. It feels totally different to you. Now, 100 is still hot either way, but you get my point. So 75 and dry is kind of the equivalent of 70 and humid. So that's step one. Don't design it to go colder than you need to, or than the code even allows. Then the other side is the outdoor scenario. For the summertime, if you are at O'Hare Airport area, which is where many of us are, 88 degrees is the day you're designing for. Not 95, not 92, not 103 like it was that one time when you were a little kid. 88 degrees. We design it for 88 degrees. If you pick a different outdoor temperature design for, you will end up with a grossly oversized system. How do I know all this is going to work? Well, there's several reasons. One, this is weather data from Chicago, which is the area that I live in. I live in Aurora, but same difference for weather purposes. Actually, for cooling purposes, the same for wintertime. It's actually 5 degrees different. But you can see this is how many hours we spend at each of these outdoor 5-degree bands. Look how much time we spend at 90 degrees in Chicagoland. Like almost nothing. There's a few days out of the year, right? So we shouldn't be designing for more than that. You don't need to design for 95 or 100 because it almost never happens. So pick the right temperatures, get a lot of stages. When you get a new air conditioner, don't get another crappy 1-stage air conditioner. At a minimum, get 2 stages, but honestly, 2 stages isn't very helpful. You need like 5. I have 5 stages at my house. If I was to get another one, I would get the brand new one because I get discounts here. But I would get the 76-stage air conditioner. I didn't say 7 or 6. I said 76. It's like infinitely variable almost. But right now I have a 5-stage air conditioner, and it's freaking phenomenal. Excellent job dehumidifying. Okay, last thing. Ventilation air. I know I only have 2 minutes. It's probably going to take me 6 to get through it, so bear with me. There are lots of ways to get fresh air into your house. Opening your window is one of those ways. We're going to talk about some ways that are better than opening your window and some ways that are nowadays required by code. I'm going to spare you the lecture in the interest of time on why you need fresh ventilation air. We've already talked about that enough. Just for COVID alone, I want fresh air, let alone all the other things that in my house that are polluting my air. Indoor air is significantly worse than outdoor air, so I want to bring the outdoor air in and get rid of the indoor air. If you're allergic to something outside, like pollen or mold, well, we still want to bring the outside air in. We'll just filter the mold and pollen out. It's easy to filter big things like pollen. It's not so easy to filter small stuff like bacteria and viruses. So I'll spare you that lecture. There are things in your house that are sucking air out of your house, like your furnace when it runs. Assuming you have a low-end furnace, which you should think about upgrading to a high-end condensing furnace, which has its own venting intake. But most of your furnaces are sucking air from your basement, which makes your house go negative pressure, which means that you need to make that pressure up. So there's lots of things like that in your house that are burning fuel, and I need to make that air up. And then there's lots of fans that are sucking air out of my house, like bathroom fans and kitchen fans. I need to make that air up. So in addition to all that kind of makeup air, I just want fresh air to come in for ventilation reasons. It is required by code, and it has been since 2012, I think, required in the international code, which most of your municipalities have adopted. You have to bring mechanical fresh air in. Mechanical means it can't be just a window that opens. You have to have a fan sucking it in. And here in Illinois, where they actually give us a table that tells us how much we have to do. It's based on 2 things, the square footage of your home and the number of bedrooms you have. So if you have a 2,000 square foot home with 3 bedrooms, you're required by code to bring in 60 CFM of outside air. That's not really that much. Your regular, if you have a 3-ton air conditioning system, you probably have 1,100 or so, 1,200 maybe CFM of total air. There's only 60 out of that. So it's not that bad. If you got a bigger house, say 3,500 square feet with 5 bedrooms, you got to bring in 90. The numbers in this chart assume you are going to run your fan system 24/7. If you want to cycle your fan down here in the bottom, they allow for that, but you have to start doubling, tripling, quadrupling these numbers. So for example, if you want to run the fan only 15 minutes out of the hour, you have to quadruple the numbers here. So 60 becomes 240, 90 becomes 360, which makes it a little bit harder to do. There are 3 ways we can do this ventilation in your house, and the code permits 3 different ways. One of them is stupid, one of them is okay, and one of them is awesome. I can do a negative pressure system, I can do a positive pressure system, or a balanced system. So let's look at negative first. So negative means that I'm going to run a fan that sucks air out of my house. Well, how the hell does that bring ventilation air in? Well, if air is leaving the house, unless my house is perfectly tight, which could happen, in that case, it sucks my house in until it collapses on itself like a can. Right? That's not going to happen. So unless my house is super tight, which it won't be, running this exhaust fan will allow air to leak in. So I get my fresh air via air leaking in through the walls. I don't want that. If it's rainy and humid outside, now I'm leaking moisture into my wall. That's not good behind the wall. That's how you get mold growth, right? And it's also coming in as cold air in the wintertime, blowing across my body before it makes its way to my furnace or something like that. I don't want that either. It's uncomfortable and it's unhealthy. Do not do exhaust-only systems. It is stupid. The code permits it, but anybody who teaches you about code will always say, don't do this. This slide only exists to tell people not to do it. The only people that want to do this, by the way, are the manufacturers of bath fans. And we rep bath fans as well, and those guys want us to do this, and we're not interested. At least I'm not. You can do supply-only ventilation. I have this at my house. This is like this is the second best thing. And I don't have the best thing. I only got the second best thing, so I'm poor. All we do in this case is we have a louver on the outside of your house that air can get in, and we run a small duct over to the return of your furnace. And when your furnace runs, it sucks air from the return of your house and through this outside air intake, and it mixes the two together to go in your furnace. Usually a little damper is put on there. I'm here to tell you that you don't need the little damper. If you sized it per this table, that means you're running it 24/7. There is never a time that the damper is supposed to be shut, so hence you don't need a damper. Now, if you size it to only run part of the time, which means you made it a big, instead of a little duct, you put a big duct in, but you're only going to run it partial time, then yeah, you're going to have a damper. Don't do that. Just size the small duct, run it 24/7, don't buy the damper. The last way is balanced. So this guy, instead of making my house positively pressurized, like the supply only, this guy's going to suck air into my house and push pressure into it. So now air leaks out the cracks and crevices. I don't want it leaking in or out, but if my choice is in or out, I'd rather have it leak out because now it's clean and conditioned and dehumidified before it goes into my wall. If it leaks in, I'm getting whatever kind of moisture it gets from outside, and I don't want that. So balance means I'm going to pull air in and out of the system. Usually we're going to do this with an ERV. I guess we could do it with 2 separate fans, but normally we do it with an ERV. That's a box that has 2 fans in it, one for the air sucking in, one for the air sucking out, but it crisscrosses those 2 air streams into this heat exchanger. So whatever heating energy you have, say in the winter, comes in here and he puts his heat into this box, and then when the cold air comes in from outside, he picks up that heat. I'm not exchanging the air. The bad air is leaving. The clean air is coming in, but the bad air is warming up these plates, and then the cold air coming in is receiving that warmth and going in. And then in the summertime, it's the opposite scenario, right? The air leaving is the hot air, as the cold air, and the air coming in is the hot air. This is really good for preconditioning my air. It reduces the size of the furnace and AC that I need because some of the work's getting done by this piece of equipment. And it's very good for keeping my energy costs low. When you decide to, I should show you the example, I guess. This is a wintertime example. It's a 7-degree day outside, so I'm sucking 7-degree air into my house. I am somewhere in my house throwing away conditioned warm 72-degree air. He's leaving, so that 72-degree air warms up this plate. The 7 degrees comes in, gets warmed up for free up to 53 degrees, and then it goes into my furnace to get heated the rest of the way. Summertime, it's the same kind of thing. In this case, it was a hot 95, 78 wet bulb, hot, humid, nasty day. That air is coming into my house, but he's dumping his heat and his moisture into that heat exchanger to be exhausted away, and he comes in cooler and drier. There are 3 ways you can install this in your house. I'll show you these 3 ways, and then I'll see if there's any last final questions. You can put an ERV in standalone. What does that mean? That means it has nothing to do with your heating and cooling system in any way whatsoever. That system is 100% separate. So you put an ERV in, you duct air from the rooms you don't want to save air, typically bathrooms, because bathrooms have humid and smelly air, and maybe some general one in the hallway just to kind of make it the right amount. And then my fresh air comes in, and it goes directly via ducting to my primary living spaces. bedrooms, living room. Okay? You can do that if you want to. And if you have like hydronic heat or something, this is probably what you're going to do. But if you already own a duct system for heating and cooling, I don't want to install another duct system. Then I'm going to have 4 ducts instead of 2 ducts. That's kind of crazy. So this is what a lot of HVAC contractors do. This is horrible. Do not let them do this in your house. Sadly, all of the manuals that we give them from our manufacturers show to do it this way. It's stupid. Don't do it. What ends up happening is that the outside air gets sucked in and goes to this ERV and goes into the return duct of the house. Okay, I'm good with that. But instead of getting air from the bathrooms, which is the air I want to throw away, we take it out of your return duct. That's air I didn't need to get rid of. So now I'm going to get rid of air that I didn't want to get rid of, put my house under negative pressure for no reason because my bath fans and kitchen fans still have to turn on. And it's going to actually cost me more money to run this energy-saving device than if I didn't even do it at all. If I just had the wild duct like I have in my house coming in, that would be less energy intensive than this. So don't ever do this. If somebody wants to do this at your house, call me. The way that I normally recommend that we do it is this 3 duct system. I know this drawing is kind of small and crappy. I apologize. So I have outside air intake coming in to the ERV, like we talked about before, picking up free heat and going into the back of my furnace. Great, perfect. Now I have the return air coming back to the furnace also. Great, perfect. My exhaust air comes from my bathroom and goes to the ERV. So I basically have, from the house's perspective, I have 3 ducts. An exhaust duct taking air out of the house, return duct taking air back to the furnace, and a supply duct giving air to the house. My outside air intake is down here. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. Guys like to do this because they don't have to duct over to the bathrooms, which is hard to do on an existing building. I get it. That's why they do it this way, but it's worthless. This is the way to do it. When you do this, you don't buy bath fans. You literally, this ERV is your bath fan. It's just a ducted bath fan at that point. You can do an HRV or an ERV. HRV, heat recovery ventilator, only does temperature. ERV does temperature and humidity. You definitely want temperature and humidity in our climate. Make sure you do that. All right, with that, I'm going to open it up to any other questions anybody has. You guys are super quiet and didn't ask any thus far, unless I missed them. There are devices you can use. We use 2 of them. One's called AirAdvice and one is called CPS to monitor air quality in people's houses. As a homeowner, you probably wouldn't do this. You probably would have a contractor who already owns this box just come to your house and do it once so you know if you got problems or not. But there are ones you could buy and you can continuously monitor your house if you wanted to do that. So this is one I did at my house. It was a 30-minute test I did. You can do longer ones as well. And it shows you how many particulates you have in the air of a certain size, VOCs, temperature, humidity, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. Tells you recommended solutions for those kind of things, and how you can solve it. And then this device I just got more recently this summer because it's way less expensive. This one talks over Bluetooth to your phone, and you can download reports and stuff like that. But it also does particulates. I like it because it does big and small particulates. It does CO2, so now if I got enough ventilation. It does VOCs, temperature, humidity, all kinds of stuff. So those things are out there if somebody's interested in that. All right, any questions from anybody? I know it's Friday. I've done 5 of these in 3 days, so I'm kind of like burnt out too. If you guys do generate questions later, you want some advice on something, you want to know how something works, you want a recommendation for a contractor, anything like that, my email's on there. Send me a note. I teach classes every single day, all day, but it doesn't mean I won't get back to you. I'll just get back to you like at night or on the weekend with your answers or someone that can solve your answers. So if there's no questions, send me notes later if you want, and I guess I'll catch you guys later. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.